Welcome to SVG TV News for Tuesday, February 23, 2016. I am Jennifer Richardson with the details. Admitting that there are challenges connected to the full implementation of the capital budget, which for 2016 stands at some $197.7 million, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves in his budget presentation last evening said his government is confident that given the actual state of preparation of the projects for implementation, the capital budget for 2016 will be met with moderate success. He noted, however, that there is a need for government ministries, along with both the public and private sectors, to raise their game in order for the level of implementation to be met.
These challenges include centrally the timely drawdown of the grants and soft loans. If you're in this business, do you have the money agreed? Sometimes when you get in it, you don't get it exactly on the time when you want it to do what you want to do. So that's one challenge, the drawdown of the grants and soft loan. Secondly is the inadequate or insufficient capacity in both the public and private sectors in implementing the capital projects. Not just the public sector alone, also the private sector. The unavailability on a sufficiently timely basis of local counterpart contributions to the particular capital projects. In the public sector outside of the central government, continuing significant investments are planned to be carried out by VINLEC. So in addition to this $197.7 million, investments are planned to be carried out by VINLEC, the Central Water and Sewage Authority, National Properties Limited, the National Lotteries Authority, and the National Insurance Services in partnership with a local credit union.
Highlighting 20 capital projects to be undertaken over the next 3 to 4 years, Dr. Gonsalves noted that there are sufficient funds allocated for each project. He further added that these projects will contribute to the economic growth of the country as well as promote job creation.
It is to be noted that the total cost of these 20 projects, excluding the Argyle International Airport, amounts to $660 million. Not all of that money is to be spent this year. Some has been spent already. The bulk of it is to be spent over the next 3 years. Additionally, there are other capital monies, grants and soft loans, which are likely to become available during this period up to 2020 and beyond. For example, there's no budget, no allocation made from the $53 million component of the 300 million pounds which the British government has allocated for special infrastructure projects. Prime Minister Cameron announced that, those grants. And our portion is about 53 million US. We haven't programmed that 53 million yet. We are in the process of programming that, and we'll have discussions in March next month with the British government. The people are coming to see us.
And the Prime Minister noted that with a number of fiscal consolidation and debt reconstruction measures already in place, there is a need for the implementation of additional tax measures in order to increase revenue intake. In presenting the appropriations bill at the 10th sitting of Parliament yesterday, PM Gonsalves proposed the introduction of revenue measures for the increase of tax on certain goods and services, noting that these initiatives are proven to produce moderate results with an improvement on fiscal balances. As it relates to value-added tax, from May 1st, 2016, Vincentians will see 4 zero-rated items and 6 former VAT-exempted items added to the VAT list.
So May the 1st, because we have to give the importers time to make their adjustments. Zero-rated items to be made taxable. There are four of them. Packaged rice for retail sale. Whole chicken and chicken parts, except chicken back, neck, and wings. Table and cooking butter, and brown sugar. Exempted items to be made taxable: lentil and pigeon peas, cooking oils except coconut oil, which is a good oil, shortenings, salt, yeast, and baking powder. The revenue yield from these items, putting on the VAT, making them the zero-rated, those 4 zero-rated items taxable, and the 6 exempted items taxable, would bring in $8 million for the year.
With regards to excise tax, there will be tax added to imported beverages such as beers, wines, cider, brandy, whiskey, vodka, and liqueurs, with the exemption of strong rum. Noting that there will be a new property tax rate for commercial properties to be imposed from the beginning of the new tax year, PM Gonsalves said that this measure will see funds of an additional $300,000 per year, which will go towards the Kingstown Town Board.
At the time of the introduction of the new property tax system, a concessionary rate of 0.06% was instituted for all commercial properties. At that time, I indicated that this was a temporary arrangement to give businesses time to adjust to the new system. Because, you know, the commercial rate is for homes is 0.08%. But for commercial properties, we had put it at 0.06%. And I had said then that that was a temporary measure. I therefore propose to increase the rate on commercial properties from the present 0.06% to the standard rate of 0.08%.
The PM also proposed an increase of 25% on various categories of motor vehicle and the driver's license. He also noted an increase in the surcharge of imported vehicles.
This is estimated to give an increase of $3 million. For instance, private motor cars not exceeding 2,000 pounds there, it's just 315, it's not going to be 400. Those which was paying 410 will pay 520, and so on. The surcharge payable on imported vehicles older than 4 years was last adjusted in 2008. I now propose to increase the charge by approximately 15% for each category shown at Appendix 5. The revenue yield from this measure is just about $500,000 per year.
There will also be a noticeable rise in fees payable for residents, work and citizen permits, as well as gun licenses and land tax.
The rates of land taxes have not adjusted for over 20 years, despite the significant appreciation in land prices since then. The estimated revenue yield from all of these very small other fees and charges, approximately $750,000. And that is the way in which I intend to collect an additional $20 million or 1% of GDP.
Leader of the opposition, New Democratic Party, Annie Eustace, has expressed concern on how the government plans to fund the recurrent budget. In highlighting areas of concern with the economy, particularly the national debt and unemployment, on radio yesterday, Eustace pointed out that in his estimation, revenues generated through taxes cannot adequately fund the recurrent budget, which he says is used to pay wages and salaries. The NDP leader, who is also an economist, stated that the government once utilized funds from the National Insurance Services, which he said endangered the institution, and is hopeful that they will not repeat this action.
And I'm hoping, I express the view that no further attempt will be made to take any money from the National Insurance Services and the contributions made to that institution to pay salaries of public servants. I go back to it again. The government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines deliberately did that a couple of years ago, much to the detriment of the National Insurance Services. I'm saying here again, the government must desist from holding back people's contributions which are deducted from their salaries and put them to pay salaries for a following month. You still have to turn around and pay it back later on again. And we are presenting a new budget. In that context, where we have not even cleared those monies that we didn't pay back. 8 million was not cleared away. And who paid that? That was paid by workers in this country. Deducted from their salaries. Supposed to have been paid in the INS, but was not paid in. The government kept it for their own purposes.
Members of the opposition boycotted the presentation of the 2016 budget yesterday. Eustace told his radio audience that they are standing by their position not to recognize the government as legitimate, despite threats of legislations to punish them for not attending Parliament. The NDP continues to maintain that the December 2015 general elections were not free or fair and has been holding a series of protest actions in this regard. St. Vincent and the Grenadines has recorded its first case of the Zika virus. This announcement came at the end of this evening's sitting of Parliament from Minister of Health, Senator Luke Brown. The minister said the confirmation came this afternoon from the Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARPHA. He said the person who was diagnosed has already fully recovered and that this will take the country to another level of its preparation in the fight against the mosquito-borne virus. The health minister is appealing to Vincentians to take extra care to protect themselves against the virus and to comply with the fogging schedules by opening their houses and getting rid of containers which attract the Aedes aegypti mosquito responsible for Zika, dengue and chikungunya. A media conference is expected to be held tomorrow on this developing matter. Climate change is real and cannot be slighted. That's a message delivered by Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security, Air and Seaports Development, Godfred Pompey, to the participants of a 4-day Strategic Targeting Methodology STM workshop for the identification of communities for disaster risk reduction initiatives, which commenced earlier today at NEMO's conference room. Pompey says given the climatic challenges faced the world over, it's important for SVG and other countries in the region to seek to pool resources and expertise in addressing these challenges, and adds that the government of SVG will continue to do its part in putting measures in place to reduce greenhouse effects. He noted that greater care and attention must be accorded to the environment, which he says is one of the main reasons behind the STM workshop, to emphasize the united approach towards building the country's awareness and resilience. The Permanent Secretary explains that the STM is a tool that will assist in identifying some of the most vulnerable communities in SVG by the utilization of data and information from past disasters and their impact on the population and other social data from the Statistical Office.
This method will accurately measure the level of exposure faced by our communities, which will then guide not only NEMO, but our development partners in the promotion of sustainable development and the strengthening not only of community resilience, but also our national resilience. This STM workshop is a component of Outcome 4 of this country's work program for disaster risk reduction, which speaks to, and I quote, improved, strengthened, and sustained community resilience to hazard impacts using approaches that are culturally appropriate.
Pompey notes that over the past 5 years, several communities have been impacted severely by hurricanes, floods, droughts, and landslides, and with the forecast for drier periods over the next few months to be followed by heavy rainfalls in 2016, this country has been feeling the effects of climate change, doubled with the El Niño effect, hence the need to focus on those communities that are most vulnerable.
To this end, continued public sensitization is central in our quest to change our attitudes towards our environment and its care. This workshop and the partnership demonstrated by our government's commitment in preparing the communities to reduce the impact of hazards and build more safer and resilient communities in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. As we begin today's workshop, we want to thank all our partners who have made this workshop possible, and especially you, the participants, and agencies for being here today. We cannot underestimate the challenges ahead. We all have to do our part in making our nation and our region not only a safer, but a cleaner zone.
Regional Disaster Management Coordinator of International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, IFRC, Tamara Lovell, in her address said strategic targeting methodology is applied using a multi-agency approach, and although it was initially conceptualized by the Red Cross, its application will only be successful with the buy-in and participation of key national and community level stakeholders. Lovell adds that joint implementation of the STM will support a joint prioritization of communities at the national level, so that once the action plan is developed, they can target the most vulnerable communities. And by doing this joint exercise, the IFRC ensures the endorsement by national governments across the region, thus ensuring sustainability.
Through the application of the STM, we want to ensure a deeper understanding of the national risk, the number of communities and how they're prioritized in terms of their risks. It's about assessing the logistic needs and capacities in the region to determine the best approach for community-based disaster risk management, as well as identifying standards for rapid response and legislative gaps where they apply. While some of these outcomes may not all necessitate community-based activities, they will lead to tangible institutional agreements and analysis.
Meantime, Vice President of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Red Cross, the SVGRC, Dora James, urged the participants to take full advantage of the workshop and to share the knowledge gained to create a stronger, more resilient St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
And I ask that you be conscious that you were specially selected. If you check your organizations, there are many other persons there who could have been here this morning, but you were chosen. Chosen because we believe that you will learn and you will share. And so at this point, as I greet you, I ask that you continue to work hard in this workshop, learn as much as you can, and we are dependent on you to make St. Vincent and the Grenadines a safer place.
Additionally, Donna Pierre, Disaster Risk Management Specialist at Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, CDEMA, says STM has the ability to pull together critical baseline information that can allow CDEMA to transparently and empirically prioritize communities considered most vulnerable. Pierre further stated that CDEMA is pleased to be partnering with the IFRC with this initiative, as it is in keeping with their efforts to identify synergies in an effort to ensure that the communities receive efficient and effective support, and it will also play an essential role in advancing the priority outcome of sustained community resilience.
The importance of this event cannot be overstated, as we are well aware from ourselves and from the other speakers that went before me, that communities are the first to be adversely affected by disasters events, especially if they are highly vulnerable. At the regional level, we are promoting the enhancing of resilience at the community level, as we see this as a critical link to supporting development strategies at the national level. In rolling out the CDM strategy, we continue to be confronted with, when wanting to design, implement, and measure accurately progress on community resilience, is the lack of data and information. We are still without a wide-ranging understanding on the level of exposure faced by communities. We still need to measure this and quantify it to the extent to which communities have been affected and adversely impacted by hazard events. A very important aspect that we must fully account for is the extent to which livelihoods as well have been interrupted or being affected. So we must gain a better understanding of the capacity and resources needed at the community level.
The Gender Affairs Division took its series of public rallies to raise awareness on child abuse to Union Island over the weekend. The rally was held under the theme, Break the Silence and Stop the Violence. In addressing the gathering, UNICEF's local representative, Marissa Burke, spoke about the completion of a nationwide policy so that the youth can report instances of abuse.
And we are going to focus primarily on children so that we can stop the violence against children and stop the violence by children. We also want to look at stopping the violence of domestic abuse at the level of the homes, in many cases done to women in our societies, and everywhere we are seeing it. We are seeing it in social media. So it means that abuse does not have to happen directly to you, but somebody that is close to you, or sometimes you see it even on the internet. Hopefully, during this time, we would be able to complete a national policy and structure, and hopefully we can be able to reach all of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, build a structure whereby you can be able to report to the agencies necessary if any abuse happened to you.
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Mobilization and Gender Affairs, Jasmine Hull, says they will be partnering with a number of stakeholders in drafting this new national policy.
The Ministry of National Mobilization, Social Development and Youth, also with responsibility for gender and child development, has partnered with the United Nations Fund to develop a national policy for child protection in St. Vincent and the Grenadines that addresses children who are abused and in need of protection, children in conflict with the law and requires protection and a second chance, and children in domestic violence environment and homes that are in need of protection. The Status of Children Act seeks to identify a child as any person within the ages of 0 to 18 years and provides protection and rights for illegitimate children to be given the same rights and access to property as legitimate children. Additionally, DNA testing adds another right of access to determine parentage of children. The Child Care and Adoption Act seeks to define child abuse as any act committed by any person towards a child that may be deemed as sexual, physical, verbal, emotional, psychological, or financial abuse.
And during the Junior Rally in Union Island for the awareness and prevention of children and women abuse, a number of youths in the area were given the opportunity to answer questions and share opinions during an interactive segment. They also shared their thoughts on the issue through music and poems. Here are some highlights.
Laugh after the disabled because we feel them can't do none. It's too long now since we have watched the fat lady and called she improper fraction. It's too long now since we have bullied the shy because we feel them now go take action. I am a champion and you're gonna hear me roar louder than a lion. You should know bullying hurts. It starts with one word you blood. Fat, ugly, worthless. These are the words they hear. Did you know you're their biggest fear? Some are good and I try to be greedy. Run them, report them, don't come up here. Them have to go out in a jacket and tie, wait them sweep out and tell